So they'll be calling you a radical. Back to this Los Alamos Zorro Ranch. So, and I had read this multiple times that Epstein had claimed that his reason he bought Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, everything to do with Los Alamos, because getting defunded. He claimed in 1990 into 93, and he wanted to get to work with these quantum physics, quantum physicists. So James, turned me on to exactly what moment in the 2-hour interview, because I don't want to listen to him and Bannon babble for 2 fucking hours. So at the 108 mark, so I went to it and I listened to it. Oh my God. Let me tell you, the entanglement argument, neither one of them even knew the term for entanglement, which we call spooky science at a distance. This is how pathetic and how lying Epstein is, and Bannon thinks he's smart. Bannon's a moron. In this interview, he proves how stupid and ignorant he is. Then they get into Sir Isaac Newton and, why is he such an infamous... Hello. For every action, there's a reaction. So let's talk about this lie that he tried to say that they were defunding. He wanted to get with this. You do know the Los Alamos scientists, which are the creepiest people in the history of the planet. Pop, pop, oh, dropped. And that's not my words, that's Albert Einstein's. Now, let's talk about so-called entanglement, which so many of these, and this is important, Neil deGrasse, Stephen Hawking, all these people, they're sure the fuck not scientists. They're philosophers. Sir Isaac Newton got into math and quantified some things that were philosophy, and he was able to quantify them. So was Einstein, theory of relativity. But what happened? Brahm, right? The scientist. Most of them were Germans. Of course, so was Albert Einstein. The Manhattan Project was all his contemporaries. And it ends up, so this conversation they have about why, because they were defunding the scientists, he wanted to get with the scientists and try to quantify what is called entanglement. So I'll help you out, Bannon, you fucking moron. It's called entanglement. As Einstein termed it, spooky science at a distance. It's trying to quantify and explain the unexplainable, which is still unexplainable to this day. And anybody that calls themselves a quantum physicist is not a scientist. I cannot overstate this. What Kevin Blanch does, I'm a scientist. Scientist is stuff you can actually physically prove, which I have. The meltdowns of FUKUSHIMA poured in the Pacific Ocean. Thus, first you hypothesize the knowledge. Then you do the field work. I mean, I've done 14 years of field work, quantum critical condition. Then you defend your work. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And if you're right, it becomes the new knowledge. And the awards, whatever, the knowledge, your place in history. In March 20, I hypothesized these were full-blown out meltdowns. These never happened in the history of mankind. At Chernobyl, 780,000 men entombed, including mine, and it blew up. They actually got the pieces of the core. Not here. These full-blown out meltdowns push into the Pacific Ocean, bringing started out of the Livermore lab. And it's going to go into the Pacific Ocean. It's going to cause such a radical new energy source, heat, that it's going to break the chain. It'll wipe out the plankton. I said it's going to cause the blob. It's going to cause a heat dome over the western United States. It's going to get into the trees. It's going to get into the needles, like the radiation from the sun, because that's what they are. They're going to get too much and they're going to burn. It's going to cause a chain reaction, which every word I said came exactly true. In science, we call that an outlier, and I proved it. Dead tide pull at your feet, Edie. It's a cult. So they have a conversation about entanglement and historical so-called science, and then neither one of them know what the fuck they're talking about. I mean, Epstein just babbling about it because they were defunding the scientists, and I wanted to try to fund these scientists that could quantify via math some of this stuff that's unexplainable. And then he goes into this ridiculous, ignorant as fuck babble. So it's the same philosophy. Look, who were the Manhattan Project? Oppenheimer could be the most evil man in the history of mankind. Leo Lazar wrote the letter, not Oppenheimer. And here's the Department of Energy was started by Jeff Bezos' grandfather, guys. Jeff Bezos' teenager mother born there. So much funny, they opened up the spigot on the Manhattan Project and it never ended. What did he want to do? He wanted to tap into that pipeline of that money, and he knew what they were. Einstein knew what they were. Einstein hated them all. Einstein hated Oppenheimer with a passion. Einstein, they had a dossier on Einstein. They were literally going after Einstein. Einstein was so against the bomb before there was the bomb. He was so anti-Manhattan Project, it was unbelievable. Pop, pop, oh, whoppy drop. They never stopped. So, spooky science at a distance, entanglement. So, what happened back in the day, Einstein did his quantitative mathematical formulas where he proved the theory of relativity and all these other different mathematical when he was very, very young. Still with the first wife, who was another mathematician. They were all the old Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And, I go back to Teller and Leo, who lived next to my grandpa in La Jolla. Fermi died young, the Chicago pile. I can get into that, blah, blah, blah. By the way, does Jeff Bezos not look exactly like Fermi? Whoa. Blow your mind, right? So anyway, this conversation is paramount that Einstein has a problem. Now, he's talking to him about entanglement. He says, there's stuff you can't prove, Albert, on light. So what happens if you shoot a photon, a beam of light, from point A to point B? Okay? There's got to be a time lapse, and that's Einstein's work, light band. And Einstein said he had a dream when he was an 11-year-old boy about light bending. Hang on to that dream. So, how can it possibly show up at the exact two places at the same time? That blows it all to hell, the speed of light. And Bob says, no, we've experimented. We've been long distances away, and that's exactly what happens. And so they're talking, and Einstein says, the great line, Einstein to him, so you mean to tell me if I look up at the moon, the other side of it's not dark? Rom's like, maybe. And they talked about their quantitative studies and actual experiments, and that's when Einstein named it spooky science at a distance. Now, Einstein, like the rest of them, tried to quantify everything, mathematical formulas, blah, blah, blah. He got, to a certain point, and he says, you can't. It's impossible. Holy Moses, Michelangelo was right. You can't quantify it, and you never will. And you've taken it too far. Einstein said in, the 1950s, you've taken the splitting the atom, the bomb, the nuclear energy project as far as you're ever going to take it. So that's what they're talking about, entanglement. So all these so-called mathematicians, scientists, their calculus, their algebra, oh fuck. They tried to shove down our throat. Remember when we were in high school and college and they shoved that shit down? I remember being in my college and I was a 16-year-old honor student at a premier university. And I was in this class, my quantum physics class, and I stood up and I told the professor, I says, this isn't science. This is philosophy. None of this can be quantified. None of this. And spooky science at a distance. And I brought it up. And he said, you know what? He says, you're going to get an A in this class. You're exactly right. Los Alamos is, it's all the cult. You know how many people from BYU are at Los Alamos? CIA. We know the apparatus. The funding there, that's, they're sickos. They're dementos. And, he had parties there at the ranch for these so-called physicists. Look at them. They had lots of parties there. Now, this gets into all the missing young females in New Mexico. Now, you know they found a grave with 11 of them in there and had never solved it. You know, so these people are sick. You know, Einstein never wrote the letter. The Department of Energy still says on their website that Einstein's theory, he wrote the letter that opened to FDR, that opened up the spigot. You know, Teller's car, not Boxcar, Teller's car. Leo Lazar and him drove to Long Island. Albert Einstein was already the most famous person in the world. And worked on him and worked on him and worked on him. You got to sign this, you know, they're getting our people, blah, 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 blah. No. I don't buy it. By the way, they lied to him. Hardcore lied. Hitler and the Germans were never interested in it. You know what they called it. I won't even say it's a racial slur. Technology. And they lied to him. Hitler was never. Remember when communique came from behind enemy lines? Baby never born, mother never pregnant. They were talking in code. That was the communique coming back. Did Hitler have it? No. And that's when everybody fled the Manhattan Project. It was over. Manhattan Project went over Utah, the Enola Gay. Of course, the biggest part of the Manhattan Project, everybody thinks was Los Alamos, was actually Oak Ridge, Tennessee, that evil. They're up to their bullshit again. TVA on Balco and Chemo, they're up to it. Ask Megan Rice. So, everybody backed out. He said the second he signed that letter, he regretted it. He said it was the biggest mistake of his life. So they're having a conversation about entanglement, quantum physics, and they think they're smart. And it's actually is about as juvenile fucking conversation about quantum physics as you'll have with maybe a first, fifth grade, maybe even a fourth grader who's getting, well, what an insult to a fourth grader. They're both green as grass. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They act like they do, but you listen to it, they don't have a fucking clue. You can see they have no background. And Epstein's lying his ass off. You know, and so, Bannon, what a phony motherfucker. Think about him. All them years, get there, and he's all over it. I mean, accusation in a mirror. Whoa. So, why has it never been investigated at last? They have all the money, the Manhattan Project. I mean, that place should have been boarded up and shut down a long time ago. So should have Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So should all the biolabs should have been gone. They're all over too. And so, what the fuck do they do there? Suck money. You know? So, he bought it because he claims that the defunding. Okay. And he was going to, where was he getting all this money to pay these scientists to do all this math? There was no math equations done at Zorro Ranch. None. Try to tap into the money pipeline? No, to tap into their psychoticness and try to, well, he was all about the blackmail, wasn't he? Now think about it. You start blackmailing these nuclear physicists who have access to fucking bomb secrets. Remember the last two people that got executed for selling state secrets, which all these guys have done this. I mean, we have a foreign entity in the White House today telling Trump what to do that's taking our country. Remember the couple from Manhattan? We executed them, remember? From Los Alamos, selling state secrets. I mean, what about Jonathan Pollard? Oh, they let him out. They executed the ones from the Manhattan Project. And so, I've been screaming about this connection between Zorro Ranch and Los Alamos for decades, many decades. And we were going after Epstein in the 90s when I was the activist in New York, you know, the Million Mass March, even before then, Anonymous on Balco, on Chemo. So, he was blackmailing nuclear physicists? Surely. I mean, it's a control mechanism, a supremacy. Nuclear is a supremacy. And not only that, the money flow. How much money flows to the nuclear cult a year? Nuclear energy, little SMRs, even Spencer Cox at Utah's tapped into when there aren't any. Free money, the Immunity Act. People don't even know about the Immunity Act. 1957, voted in Congress. Price Anderson, the two guys that sponsored it, was supposed to be temporary, anything kind of like the Patriot Act. anything nuclear that the government funds, you can't sue them, go after. They know this. They re-upped that 2 years ago in 2024. Billions and trillions. So the bodies, you know how many young, look it up. Look up how many young men and women, boys and girls, are officially missing and disappeared near Zorro Ranch. Look it up. Hundreds. I mean, the one they dug up, what was that, 12, 15? They've never solved that. And they say they know that it was tied to child sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. What I think, personally, why he bought it, I mean, what he was up to, he knew they were a bunch of pedos. We know that the nuclear cult has been notoriously pedos. He knew that. And he did it. I mean, this is the same era that Pollard, Apollo affair on Balco, they got all the secrets out of there. So I think what it was to get for the Middle East of Eden, Israel, the same thing Pollard, he was blackmailing them. And I think if it got dug into, they would find out a lot of the Los Alamos so-called nuclear secrets, the nuclear things, ended up in Tel Aviv. And that's what he was up to. That's exactly what he was up to. Blackmailing these people? Did he? Yeah. Did they actually involved with killing young men and women? Well, now that you read the Epstein files, you can see that most likely happened a lot. And are there bodies there? Well, I remember listening to an interview clear, way back. This has got to be 20 years ago, the two sisters that opened it up that got him put in. You know, he went to jail. And you don't think he was about good blackmailing? I think they probably got all kinds of nuclear secrets out of there. That's what he was doing. And Bill Richardson, he had, well, that's all admitted that they had all the dirt on Bill Richardson. He died. Well, dead man can't testify. So, how about Pound Bondi today? Losing her, goodbye. She's, God, why would you take that job? You know you just got a life for him. But, are there, all roads lead to Los Alamos. It's a supremacy control mechanism. Have you ever seen the movie Oppenheimer? That movie's a masterpiece, by the way. When she's up on him sexually, and I'm very frightened about this, and she's doing all the work, that's who these psychos are. That's such a great piece in that film. It tells the whole tale. Oppenheimer, evil. Everybody said, don't drop it. There's no need to drop it. Everybody backed out. Where did they find Truman? Thought Wall was going to be the cult. So, I'll post the link to the interview. The interview's actually pathetic. Bannon and Epstein, neither one of them have a fucking clue what they're talking about. It's called entanglement, as Einstein termed it. So, not that long ago, some scientists, not nuclear physicists, tried to prove this. So they used two of the major observational telescopes. I don't know if they used Campbell. By the way, Campbell was in Cremaria when World War started up and got thrown in the gulag. And then it was Eddington that proved the theory of relativity and the bending. But anyway, back to this before I lose track. They, two of the literally tens of thousands of miles away, and they used starlight from, I believe, a star that's at least 10,000 light years away. And it took them a long time, and sure as shit, how is that even possible? It showed up the exact two places at the exact same time. As Einstein termed it, spooky science at a distance. It's unexplainable. Einstein at the end of his life, go be a plumber. Go be a carpenter. That's exactly why I decided to be a plasterer when I was young. Well, Michelangelo pushed me there, but, I could have went into this field. I'm like, oh, fuck, hell no. So, anyway, they're talking quantum physics, and DeGrasse, Hawkins, all those, they have 0.0 to do with science. They're philosophers. And that's what most of science is philosophy. But real science, you prove it. First, you hypothesize. These are full-blown out meltdowns. Never happened before. They're going to push into the Pacific Ocean. It's going to cause a heat source, bring you sour surge. They've never got near these cores. How hot is a core? Millions of fucking degrees. They push in the ocean fucking boiled. I'm the guy that named it fucking the blob, the heat dome. I mean, everything I said was, you hypothesize the knowledge, then you do. How about my field work? It's going to give you cancer. I got leukemia given it 2 months to live with a death sentence of AML de novo. By the way, I had a really close family member die young of cancer on Super Bowl Sunday. It's heartbreaking. But anyway, I did this in critical condition. Everything I said came to be. I hypothesized. I did my field work. I used the most transparent platform I could find, YouTube. Put it out there. What am I going to do? Stay in academia and turn it over to the MIT Media Lab? Well, who was funding the MIT Media Lab? Oh, Jeffrey Epstein. Ito, who ran the MIT Media Lab, started in 2011. Oh, on the Epstein list. Noam Chomsky, who I talked to at the Celtic, don't say the F word, Epstein list. John Trump, MIT. I mean, Epstein funding all that. All these people are tied to there, connected there. Spooky science at a distance. So thanks, James, for sending me the time, because I didn't watch that whole fucking thing, make you fucking throw up. But I watched a lot of it, and where they start talking at it is in the, and I'll post the link where they start talking. 108:50. Well, I'll post it at the 1 hour and 8 minute mark, I believe. He bought it. I mean, it's all there. I mean, hello. One day you will wake up and realize Einstein was right. The nuclear energy cult and the Epstein cult, these are psychos, are one and the same. Oh, I got to tell this before I turn this off. I'm always the keynote up on the Synod for Diablo, especially Synod for hearings. There's a reason I'm first up. You think that's by coincidence? Because I'm the guy that is more effective. I spoke at one of the hearings one time, and Lawrence himself, the Lawrence Livermore Lab, his grandson spoke behind me. Oh my God, he had it so figured out. He went off on his own grandfather, called him every psychopath, and had it quantified how many, hundreds of millions of dollars the Senate offer is ripped off, and he just ripped him. What a psycho he was. These people are crazy. Supremacy, they think they're it, and the rest of us are whatever. And they're degenerate. They want to destroy the place. That's what he said. His own grandfather, and he just ripped him one off, and so articulate. You think I'm radical? And they'll say, he sure him. Whoa. So Los Alamos, Zorro Ranch, are they responsible for the child sex trafficking ring? We know that's factually true, but did they actually kill children? Well, there sure is a lot missing in New Mexico. So anyway, there's your thing, and Lord Rothschild's puppet, BB's from Poland. By the way, he's in the White House right now. He got Trump by the short hairs. Like Marie Antoinette, let them eat yellow cake. Like backstabber Biden. Stay tuned.